Alex, I spent 20 years thinking that if a tool couldn't take a finger off from across the room, it wasn't a real tool. I lived in a world of 3-pound hammers and 5 horsepower motors. Then I tried to make a simple silver ring for my wife, and I realized that metal has a way of humbling you the second you shrink the scale.
Is that what this is? This little silver pebble on the bench? Because it looks like a T-1000 from Terminator had a very bad day.
That was supposed to be a bezel setting. I got a little too enthusiastic with the torch and learned the hard way that the distance between perfectly flowed solder and expensive puddle of regret is about half a second and maybe 2 degrees.
Well, at least you're consistent. Whether it's a dining table or a trinket, you always manage to find the point of no return. But seriously, we're diving into the world of jewelry and small metalwork today. Most of our listeners are used to the big stuff. Why the sudden interest in the fiddly bits?
Because jewelry making is like the concentrated espresso of the maker world. Everything counts more. In woodworking, a 16th of an inch is a gap you can fill with sawdust and glue. In silversmithing, a tenth of a millimeter is why the gemstone doesn't fit or why the hinge on a tiny locket won't swing. It's a discipline of precision that'll make your big scale work 10 times better.
Looking at all this, it's a bit overwhelming. You've got everything from stringing beads to literally melting metal with a torch. If someone is sitting in their garage right now surrounded by 2x4s and wants to get into this, where's the entry ramp?
You've got to pick your poison first. It's like choosing between turning bowls or building cabinets. You've got the cold connection world. That's your beaded jewelry and wire wrapping. That's the 4,300-year-old tradition. No fire, just pliers, wire, and a lot of patience. It's the ultimate kitchen table craft because you don't need a ventilation system or a fire extinguisher standing by.
Wire wrapping always seemed like 3D doodling to me. But then I saw some of those ancient Iraqi pieces you mentioned. It's basically structural engineering on a microscopic level.
Exactly. You're using the tension of the metal to trap a stone. No glue, no solder. It's honest work. But if you want to feel like a miniature blacksmith, that's when you step into silversmithing or goldsmithing. That involves the 3 H's, heating, hammering, and heartbreak.
Oh, the heartbreak comes for free in every craft, Tiger. Don't act like it's a specialty feature.
True, but there's also metal clay, which sounds like magic. It's literally microscopic particles of silver mixed with an organic binder. You mold it like Play-Doh, fire it in a kiln, or even with a small torch, the binder burns away, and boom, you're holding solid 0.999 silver. It's the ultimate cheat code for people with sculptor's hands, but a fear of saws.
Okay, let's talk gear. Because I know you. You can't just buy a pair of pliers. You probably have a hammer handpiece or something that sounds vaguely medieval.
Guilty as charged. I actually just picked up a Fordham SR motor. It's the heart of the shop. Imagine a Dremel, but with the engine of a tractor hanging on a pole and a foot pedal that gives you the control of a concert pianist.
I saw a video about those. Someone was saying don't buy the cheap speed controller. Is that just gear snobbery or is there a reason?
It's the difference between a volume knob and a light switch. With the cheap ones, the motor either does nothing or it's spinning at 10,000 RPMs trying to fly out of your hand. In jewelry, you need to be able to creep up on a polish. You want that buffer moving just enough to kiss the metal, not enough to launch your half-finished ring into the rafters, never to be seen again.
I assume you're speaking from a place of painful experience?
I'm still finding earrings in the cobwebs from 3 years ago, Alex. If it's small enough to fit in a box, it's small enough to become a projectile.
So, for the beginner who isn't ready to buy a suspended motor system, what are the must-haves?
A good jeweler's saw. Don't skimp on the frame and buy more blades than you think you'll ever use because you will snap them if you even look at them sideways. A bench pin, this little wooden V-shaped block that clamps to your table. It's your tiny workbench. And 3 pairs of pliers, chain nose, round nose, and flat nose. If you have those and a way to cut wire, you're in business.
You mentioned designing. This is where I think people get stuck. They want to make something, but they don't know what. Do you just start hammering and see what happens?
That's a great way to waste $20 an ounce on silver. I learned to treat it like a blueprint. Start with a sketch. Even if you're a visual-only person, label the parts. Is this piece a pendant? Is it a ring? How does it attach?
I saw a tutorial on a tiny hinge clasp. It looked like a Swiss watch. I can't imagine trying to figure that out on the fly.
You can't. You have to work backward from the finish. If you're making a stone set ring, you have to know the exact dimensions of that stone before you ever cut the metal. It's about the stack up. You build the base, you build the walls, you set the stone. If any layer is off by a hair, the whole thing looks like a middle school art project.
And that brings us to the S word, soldering. In woodworking, we use glue. In metalworking, you're basically welding with a precision torch.
Soldering is the mountain you have to climb. It's not like plumbing where you just glob it on. In jewelry, the fit of the joint has to be so tight that light doesn't pass through it. Solder doesn't fill gaps. It's a chemical bond. If there's a gap, the solder will just sit there and stare at you while the rest of your piece melts into a puddle.
Give me one tiger tip for someone terrified of melting their work.
Watch the flux. Flux is the liquid you paint on to keep the metal clean so the solder flows. When you heat it up, it goes through stages, it bubbles, it turns white and crusty, and then it turns clear and glassy. When it's glassy, that's your green light. That's when you're ready to dance. And remember, heat the whole piece, not just the solder. Solder is like a teenager. It only goes where the heat is.
I've been watching these metalsmith vlogs lately. People like Basia or Christina, they make it look so meditative. But then you see the productive week videos, and they're struggling with the same stuff we do. A ring they thought was beyond saving, or finishing a batch of polishing envelopes. It's a job, isn't it?
It's a grind, just like anything else. But there's a different kind of satisfaction in it. When I finish a cabinet, I feel like I've conquered a piece of the forest. When I finish a ring, I feel like I've captured a little bit of light.
That's surprisingly poetic for a guy who once accidentally glued his hand to a lathe.
Hey, the glue was high quality. But look, the reality of being a self-employed jewelry artist is that you aren't just a maker. You're a photographer, a shipper, a marketing agent, and a janitor. Small metalwork generates these tiny microscopic shards of silver and gold. Professional shops have sweeps. They literally vacuum the floor and send the dust to a refiner to get the metal back.
Wait, are you saying your floor is worth more than my car?
In some shops, probably. It's a zero waste craft by necessity. You save every dust bunny because that silver adds up.
Okay, let's talk about the failure part. One of the vlogs mentioned a ring that was beyond saving, but they fixed it anyway. How do you know when to walk away from a piece versus when to keep fighting?
In wood, if you cut it too short, it's scrap or it's a smaller project. In metal, you have the reset button called the melting crucible. If I've truly mangled the design, maybe I overheated it and the texture is ruined, or the proportions are just ugly, I don't throw it away. I melt it into a button and start over.
That sounds incredibly cathartic.
It's the ultimate do-over. But usually, most jewelry mistakes are fixable with a file and some sandpaper. You just have to be willing to spend 3 hours undoing a mistake that took 3 seconds to make.
We haven't talked about stones. Lapidary work, is that a whole different rabbit hole?
It's a separate burrow in the same hole. Most beginners should start by buying cabochons. Those are the stones that are flat on the bottom and domed on top. They're much easier to set. Faceted stones, the ones with the sparkly angles, require a level of precision that will make your hair fall out.
I think I'll stick to the flat ones for now.
Smart move. The key is the bezel. It's just a thin strip of silver that wraps around the stone. You solder it to a base plate, drop the stone in, and then use a tool to push the metal over the edge of the stone. It's like a tiny metal hug that holds the gem forever.
A metal hug. You're on a roll today.
Well, it's true. If you push too hard, you crack the stone. If you don't push enough, the stone rattles and eventually falls out at a wedding or something. It's all about finding that middle ground of just enough.
What's the biggest noob mistake you see when people try to get into small metalwork?
Aside from the too much heat issue, it's not finishing. People get the piece soldered together and they think they're done. But in jewelry, the finish is 70% of the work. You start with a coarse file, move to 220 grit sandpaper, then 400, 600, 800, 1200. Then you go to the polishing wheel with Tripoli compound, and finally rouge for that high mirror shine.
That sounds like a lot of rubbing.
It's a test of character. If you skip a grit, say you go from 400 to 800, you'll see the 400 grit scratches through the 800. And when you get it to a mirror polish, those scratches will look like canyons. You have to be disciplined. You have to learn to love the process of refining.
So if I wanted to start tonight, right now, what's the one thing I should do?
Go find a piece of copper wire. Not even silver, just a piece of scrap copper wire. Take some pliers and try to make a perfect circle. Not an ovally sort of round shape, a perfect circle where the ends meet so tightly you can't see the break.
That sounds deceptively hard.
It's the hello world of metalwork. If you can master the simple jump ring, you can build a crown.
I like that. It's not about the gold or the diamonds, it's about the control.
Exactly. And hey, if you melt the copper, it only costs you 5 cents instead of $50.
Smart. I think I can handle a 5-cent disaster.
That's how it starts. Next thing you know, you're looking at $500 rotary tools and hammer handpieces and wondering why your workbench is covered in microscopic silver dust.
Well, at least I'll have a metal hug to show for it.
There you go.
Thanks for the deep dive, Tiger. I think I'm actually going to go try that wire circle.
Just don't glue your hand to it.
No promises.